Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I have read so far in 2022 and talk about the book that I'm currently reading. Okay, to start off, this is the first book that I read this year. It is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. It's about a girl named Lily. I'm going to try and give spoiler-free reviews. Also, it's about a girl named Lily with her boyfriend named Ryle. And their interesting relationship, their terrifying relationship, if I'm honest, and Atlas. And of course, the back of this book, it says, sometimes the one who loves you is the one who hurts you most. Lily hasn't always had it easy, but has never stopped her from working hard for the life she wants. She's come a long way from the small town in Maine where she grew up. She graduated from college, moved to Boston, and started her own business. So when she feels a spark with a gorgeous neurosurgeon named Ryle Kincaid, everything in Lily's life suddenly seems almost too good to be true. And then, of course, it goes into their relationship. It's a pretty long back cover, but then, of course, at the end, as questions about her new relationship overwhelm her, so do thoughts of Atlas Corrigan, her first love and a link to the past she left behind. So there's a lot of details in this book. There's a lot of past plot points, which I think is always interesting to see, like, the past and how it builds into the future. So this is really good. To be honest with you, at first I did not really like this book. I think it picks up into something that I'm more interested in about 150, 200 pages in. I think the first, of course, 150 pages kind of set up what happens in the last 100 pages, but it is really dark. It is really scary. Of course, it talks about an abusive relationship. I'm going to give you that trigger warning right off the bat. If you have been in an abusive relationship, if someone you know has been in an abusive relationship, I don't know if you want to read this book, more power to you, but I will give you a big old trigger warning because it does get really scary. And so if you've experienced this kind of thing, if you feel comfortable and you feel ready reading it, go ahead, rock on. But if you're not ready, this might not be the Colleen Hoover for you. However, the next one just might be. For reference, I did read all three of these books in one day. Not all three in one day, but I read this in one day, this in one day, this in one day. I tend to pick books that I know that I will absolutely devour. If not, it'll take me like a really long time to read them, such as with this one, which I'm going to talk about. I've been reading it for a few weeks and I can't get into it. I don't know what it is. I am working on it, but I put it down one time early on in the novel and I'm struggling to pick it back up. So I tend to do books in one day. I sit down, devour them. That's it. And Colleen Hoover's books are really good for that. This author, pretty good for that. This book is shorter, bigger text, so it does make it easier. But I do tend to read books in one day. I will ignore all of my responsibilities and I will read a book in a day. But that's life. That is what it is. You know, I would rather read than do just about anything else. I know that if I don't like devour a book, it'll take me a really long time to read it. And then I won't reach my book goal on Goodreads, which I will link my Goodreads down below. But November 9th was a little bit more twisty-turny than It Ends With Us, especially near the end. But I did like that it wasn't just like your average beautiful girl, beautiful boy. That Fallon is insecure. You learn this in the first 5 minutes, but she's a burn victim. And you see her going through the process of realizing that she still is beautiful with all of her scars. And I think that's really beautiful. And I think Colleen Hoover did a really good job of pulling in something that's not really represented. I've never read a book that the main girl is a burn victim before. And I think that that's a really interesting take on like a love story, or in this case, it was kind of twisted and turdy and a lot. But I did read it all in one day and I loved it. The back of November 9th reads, Fallon meets Ben, an inspiring novelist, the day before her scheduled cross-country move. Their untimely attraction leads them to spend Fallon's last day in LA together, and her eventful life becomes the creative inspiration Ben has always sought for in his novel. Over time, and amidst the various relationships and tribulations of their own separate lives, they continue to meet on the same date every year, until one day Fallon becomes unsure if Ben has been telling her the truth or fabricating a perfect reality for the sake of the ultimate plot twist. It's very good. Very good. And for reference, I gave this one 8.5, 9 out of 10. I'm giving this one 9.5 out of 10. I rarely give 10s. I can't give a 10 unless it's like a book that I think about for weeks. Like I thought about these books, but it wasn't like life-changing. You know what I mean? And the last book that I read, this book was gifted to me. It's The Couple Next Door by Shari, Lapena. I'm probably said that wrong. This was gifted to me for Secret Santa, and of course I got books for Secret Santa. I read this in one day. It's a super quick read. Now, for reference, all these books are about 300 pages, but for this one, at least, the text is pretty large and spaced out. So I did read this in one evening. It wasn't my favorite book. I don't know, maybe like a 6 or 7 out of 10, because some of it was kind of predictable. And the way it was written, it's written from like the third person perspective. Since it's written from the third person perspective, it kind of reads like a script to a play or a movie. And I did do theater when I was younger, so I guess it wasn't odd for me to read this kind of thing, but I could see for some people they wouldn't be able to read it as well or as quickly, I guess, because it's not written like I did this. It's Anne said this, Marco said this, Anne walks across the room, like the detective walked in. Like it's written like blocking instead of a novel like the Colleen Hoover novels. So it's differently written, but it is a good novel. It is a little bit more true crimey than other books that I've read so far this year. The back says, Anne and Marco Conti seem to have it all, a loving relationship, a wonderful home, and their beautiful baby Cora. But one night when they are at a dinner party next door, a terrible crime is committed. Suspicion immediately falls on the parents, but the truth is much more complicated. And then there's another paragraph too, but that's basically the summary of it. There's a detective that comes in and that feels that the panicked couple is hiding something inside their curtained house. So it's a true crime kind of situation, but it is unexpected. But all the twists happen like really fast. Like you know what happens almost immediately, and then you watch what unfolds after you find out what happens, which is different than a lot of books of this kind. A lot of the time you find out whodunit in the last 50 pages. In this, you find out in like the first 75, and then you see how it unravels, which is an interesting perspective. So those are the 3 books that I read in January and the start of February, and this is the current book that I am reading, The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. I picked this up at Target. I saw it and I liked the cover. Of course, I liked the inside cover of this as well. So before Owen Michaels disappears, he manages to smuggle a note to his beloved wife of 1 year, protect her. Despite her confusion and fear, Hannah knows exactly to whom the note refers. Owen's 16-year-old daughter, Bailey. Bailey, who lost her mother tragically as a child. Bailey, who wants absolutely nothing to do with her stepmother. As Hannah's increasingly desperate calls to Owen go unanswered, as the FBI arrests Owen's boss, as a U.S. Marshal and federal agent arrives at her Sausalito home unannounced, Hannah quickly realizes her husband isn't who he says he was, and that Bailey may just hold the key to figuring out Owen's true identity and why he disappeared. Hannah and Bailey set out to discover the truth, but as they start putting together the pieces of Owen's path, they soon realize they are also building a new future, one neither of them could have anticipated. So I am only 54 pages into this book. So I'm there. I got this much left to go. It is very good. And I had this book sitting, I work at a restaurant on the weekends to make a little extra cash. And I had this sitting on the host stand while I was reading it. And I had 2 customers come in and tell me that this book was really good. So take it from me and also the 2 customers that this is pretty good. It's pretty good so far. I really have no idea how it's going to end, and I like that about books. I tend to try and, of course, figure out in my head how things are going to go, but this one I really have no idea. So thank you for watching. I want to do book reviews maybe once a month, once every other month, just depending on how much I read. I will link my Goodreads account down below just because I do have a lot of books that I read on there. I have a lot of books that I want to read on there, and of course I keep track of the books that I am reading on there. So thank you for watching. Bye.